A very good morning to all of my dear friends. I hope you all are doing good. This is Prashant Mawani and I warmly welcome all of you to Study IQ. Look at the fact regarding bamboo. There are some species of bamboo that can grow up to a foot a day, and it is making bamboo one of the most eco-friendly textiles in the world as well. It can absorb more sweat compared to cotton, and at present research is going on to use bamboo for fighting climate change and desertification. With this, dear friends, Study IQ provides pen drive and tablet courses for your exams. We cover all different types of competitive exams. Want to know more about it? Check out studyiq.com. With this, dear friends, the first editorial that we have today is pertaining to Maldives and China, right, and the role or you can say the trouble that it can create for India. Now let's understand some basic things regarding Maldives. You can see here, this is a country here, right, made up of very small islands, right. This is Maldives in Indian Ocean, not far from our country and not far from Lakshadweep. It is also part of South Asia as well as SAARC group, right, SAARC group, and you have 8 members in this SAARC, and Maldives is one of them. Here is a bit you can say zoomed map of Maldives, and you can see equator is crossing through Maldives because you have this atolls of, or you can say islands of Maldives. So it is of course an equatorial country, right, famous for tourism, and we have seen Maldives in many Indian films as well. Now the thing is, dear friends, we know One Belt One Road, or BRI, of China, right? China is creating infrastructure, or you can say connectivity, and it is reaching here till Europe. We know that China has deep pockets. That means it has a huge amount of money, and it is investing it as capital, right. It is investing in different countries of Europe, Central Asia and Africa, but the thing is, China is a rising power as well, and it's not just you can say commercial expansion that China is doing with this money and with this infrastructure. It is building dual purpose you can say ports, which can be utilized for both merchant as well as warfare use. And the free trade agreement that took place between Maldives and China is a thing that has raised the ears of our country, India. China has invested $1 billion, right, in you can say Maldives. Basically Chinese companies, right, they are exploring this tourism prospects. As I told you that Maldives is famous for tourism because the thing is, Maldives has sunshine, and the people from Europe, particularly England and other countries where they don't have good sunshine throughout the year, these are the countries they would prefer to visit, this sort of tropical countries. And Caribbean island is again, you know, the Caribbean countries, right, they are also famous for their for tourism, and so is Maldives in Indian Ocean. The other thing is, couple of months ago it was reported in the media regarding Maldives selling one of its atoll or island to Saudi Arabia, and at that point of time I clearly remember that we discussed how this can lead to spread of Wahhabism in Indian Ocean region. The other thing is that if you see the ratio of people taking part in this sort of you know, ISIS and all these extremist groups, then you will find it is quite shocking that in terms of ratio, Maldives is on top of the list. That means many youngsters from Maldives have joined this sort of terrorist groups, which is a thing which is a very sad thing for SAARC itself and for India too. And the other thing is that last August China parked its naval warship in Malé. So there are some indicators, and you can understand that these are all red flags for our country. The other thing is that China is already of course having a free trade agreement with Pakistan, isn't it? CPEC, and it is also exploring and negotiating FTAs with Bangladesh, Sri Lanka and Nepal. Let me show you a map here. It is known as a string of pearls. You might have heard about it. String of pearls basically is a sort of string, right? Of course the pearls here are for China, not for India. For India it is a sort of noose, because you can see here, see, this is a portion, this is Indian Ocean portion, and the country that dominates this part of the world is India. But now you can see China is building ports in Chittagong, Bangladesh. We have talked about this thing that even countries of South Asia, the countries that are having good friendship with India, they are also joining this BRI. Bangladesh is there, then you have Myanmar, then you can also see here Hambantota. Of course, we know that the situation of Hambantota is financially not viable. Same thing applies to this CPEC as well. By 2030, Pakistan has to pay back somewhere around $90 billion. Remember, the economy of Pakistan is somewhere around 200 or max 300 billion dollar economy, right? So it is not that big economy, and it has to pay back 90 billion. China has invested 46 billion in this CPEC, or maximum 50 billion. For China it is not a big amount, but for Pakistan it is, you can say, colonization of China. Then here is Malé, or the capital of Maldives. Then we know about Gwadar port, we know about this Djibouti, right? And then you have other ports as well. China is building roads and other things in many African countries too. So this is what we call string of pearls, because as I told you, it is dual purpose ports. Now coming back to this thing, the other thing is that a statement that is coming from Maldives is that the government has said it is not satisfied with the free trade agreement with India. This is something that India will take it very seriously, and the way this whole free trade agreement was signed, or the way it was, the FTA between Maldives and China got its approval from the Parliament of Maldives at midnight. So this is something which is quite strange, right? And we also know that Maldives is having a very corrupted regime as per the media report, and the opposition, the previous president was kicked out. He is in exile at present. So these are the problems that are going on, and the New Delhi, that is the government of India, is having a sort of good relationship with the opposition party rather than the ruling party of Maldives. So this is one of the most important thing, because as I told you, this is associated with SAARC, and you will not find a specific question regarding Maldives and India's relationship. They can ask you in your interview, but they can ask you the future of SAARC, and these are some of the examples that you can use. With this, dear friends, we head towards second and one of the most important article or the thing that is reported in today's newspaper is pertaining to bi-monthly monetary policy review of RBI. Now I would like to remind you that the formula that about which we have talked quite a lot of time, right? This is called the demand and supply thing. You can see it on your screen as well, dear friends. It's very easy to understand, right? If you say, for example, in your class you have 50 students, right, and you have 1000 chocolates, right, to distribute between these 50 students. So of course the value of chocolate will come down, isn't it? Because everyone will have more than one chocolate. But imagine a reverse scenario. You have 1000 children and you have 5 chocolates. So now you can, the best way to give or distribute this 5 chocolate is to create a sort of a tough competition, isn't it? So you can see here that the demand is high here and the supply is low. On this side you have the demand is low and the supply is higher. So that's how it works, and the inflation targeting, right? Making sure that inflation basically means a general rise in the price of all the products, right? Making sure that inflation is kept under, or it's within the decided target, is the main job of Monetary Policy Committee, MPC. MPC is you can say a group of people, right? It includes 6 members. It has 6 members, right? 3 from RBI and 3 appointed by the government, and their main job is to ensure that that the interest rates are kept in tune with inflation targeting. And the RBI has said, this MPC has said that the consumer price index has gone up. That means the prices of things have gone up, and this is something, this is one of the reasons why it has not decreased this policy rate. Again, you can understand this thing with the help of money, too much money in the market, right? And very few product, or you can say that you have X products and you have a huge amount of money chasing this product. So of course the price of this X will go up because there are many buyers in the market. So this is how things work. Apart from that, we know the situation, the food situation is a bit volatile, and fuel as well. We know things going on in Saudi Arabia and other countries. Yemen was in news. We have talked about this portion. And dear friends, the OPEC, right, this oil producing countries, they have started to work on cutting the supply, right? Again, demand and supply is a thing, because too much supply, they have to produce some amount of oil. If they just shut down their this oil wells, then this is not going to this is in fact going to create more loss, because they have to pay to their employees, and they have their machines and things like that. Everything is there, so they have to do a certain sort of you can say they have to extract oil from the ground. But if the demand is low, then you can understand the supply is constant, so this is going to decrease the price. But now they have agreed that they are going to cut down the supply as well. The other thing is you see here this house rent allowance under this 7th pay commission has been has gone up. And because of this thing, many people, the government employees, would be having extra money in their hand to get a sort of house on rent, and they can go for a better property. Many people looking for house on rent, and this will again increase the price of houses, because there will be a demand, isn't it? There will be a demand from these people who are getting benefit of this 7th pay commission. And goods and service tax, the rates have been, you know, that slashed, and because of this thing, the prices of goods will come down. Again, this will you can say kick demand. So this is how it works. I hope this is clear to you guys, and don't worry about it if you have any sort of basic confusion regarding how things work. The reason why I'm saying it is because hopefully today I am going to deliver a special lecture on this bi-monthly monetary policy. So we will discuss about these things in detail, but of course I have covered the things that are mentioned here. Of course I have covered a bit more than what is mentioned in this editorial. And we know that recapitalization of banks, right, government is going to inject 2.11 lakh crore rupees, which is mentioned in the news item as well. And I have clubbed news items with this editorial here. You can see here that RBI has said that this repo rate basically means the rate at which the central bank, that is the RBI, will give money to SBI and Bank of Baroda and other banks that fall under the umbrella of RBI. So that's what repo rate is. And if the RBI is in need of money for whatever reason, then it will borrow it from this lower banks, and the interest that RBI pays to these banks are known as reverse repo rate. So please keep this thing in mind. And you can see here, you read about this sort of terms. I have told you that many a times the terms that are used by economists are a bit difficult, right? They are scary for those particularly those students who are not having a sort of background in commerce or economics. So what is neutral stance? Neutral basically means, I'm sure you know how cars and bikes work, isn't it? You keep your bike or car in neutral, so you are not doing anything. So that's what neutral stance is. So far means at moment this RBI will not do anything at all. It will leave. It has basically, you can say that it has kept the gear in neutral. For next couple of months or maybe 1 or 2 quarters, nothing will happen with these rates. And it has said there are some good news and bad news. The good news is that industrial activities have started picking up. Revival of credit demand, the demand has gone up, so this means that bank will be able to give money, new business will start, and new jobs will be created. At the same time, the bad news is that housing inflation, we know why, because of 7th pay commission thing, and the prices of crude may go up, and you know that if the price of crude goes up, then it will kick inflation. The other thing is that government will have less money in its hand because of the price of goods, this crude going up, and this will create a sort of you can say fiscal slippage. That means government will have less money, and when government is having less money, then it will spend less, isn't it? And it spends in 2 different areas. One is capital and other sort of revenue expenditure. And then you have one more item that is associated with RBI. RBI has said that this package of 2.11 lakh crore for recapitalization is not just the money. With it will come package of reforms as well, right? Very soon Finance Ministry will release the details of these reforms that the banks have to follow. The other thing is RBI has reduced this MDR, that is a merchant discount rate. I'm sure you have used this thing, but this is a sort of fancy, or you can say official term, MDR. So what it means is that when you swipe your card at any place of your shopping, right, there is a sort of charge that is associated with your whilst you use your card, isn't it? They many times they inform you, many times they don't, but there is a sort of hidden charge, or you can say there is a charge, and this is known as merchant discount rate. And this goes to 3 entities: the bank that issued the card, the lender whose point of sale terminal is being used, and the payment network such as MasterCard or Visa or Rupee or whatever. Now the fees for the merchants, right, with turnover less than 20 lakh rupees is decreased, right? It has been in the previous financial year it was 0.4, right? No, I beg your pardon, it is 0.4. Earlier on it was 0.75. It was a bit expensive. Now it is 0.4, and if you use QR code, then it is 0.3% of the transaction cost, but it cannot go more than 200 rupees. Then any merchants with turnover 20 lakh rupees, it's 0.9, and QR is bit less expensive than normal POS. It's 0.8, and the absolute cap in this case is 1000 rupees. Now let me tell you, this will come into effect from January 1st, a new year. And one more thing is that the RBI, the banks, should find some other ways, right, to fulfill this loss that they make. Because when I'm saying loss, I mean to say that all this POS transactions or QR transactions should be made free of cost. Of course, if you are purchasing something, there should be some sort of threshold that if you are purchasing something less than say for example 100 rupees, then you will be charged for it maybe 1 rupee or less than that, or something 50p, 25p or something like that. But if you are doing bigger shopping, then there should be no charge at all, and this will promote more and more people. It will create that 5 rupees or 2 rupees charges. People are not happy to pay that thing, and this is a big hurdle. With this we come to a very important article here. This is written by a former ambassador of our country, right, or to United Nations, and the things that are discussed here are absolutely fantastic. So let's go through it. The first one is it starts with international Court of Justice as well as United Nations Security Council. Dear friends, if you want to know more about International Court of Justice, then check out StudyIQ.com. You will find a special video lecture on ICJ, International Court of Justice, and what it means to be a victor in this ICJ. You know that our Justice Bhandari has been elected as a judge in this ICJ, and we had a very tough cutthroat competition with a superpower, or you can say a P5 member, that is Britain. And anyways, so I will leave it for you guys, but if you want to know a bit more about it, then it is available there in both Hindi and English. Now, coming back to this topic here, there are two, you can say, prestigious organs of United Nations. The first one is this one, Security Council. I'm sure you know many things about it. And then you have this ICJ. ICJ was a sort of unknown thing for us before, I believe, this Kulbhushan Jadhav's case, right? Earlier on, it was back in 1999 or 73. And in 1955, when this was in news, and during this point of time, no one from us was born as well, isn't it? And the other thing is, dear friends, the elections of ICJ is a bit more interesting than, or you can say a bit more challenging than your Security Council's election, because election to the Security Council is conducted only in General Assembly, right? United Nations General Assembly, and you need a 2/3 majority to get elected, right? This is, of course, you will not find questions pertaining to this thing, but it is very important for your understanding. The second thing is ICJ. When I say you will not find, if it is based on, you can say, experience and most educated judgment, right? But anyways, we are covering this thing, so you know that if you want to get elected in United Nations Security Council, you know that there are 15 countries there, 5 countries are permanent, so you have this 10 places, and if you want to get elected, then you would need 2/3 of support from General Assembly. Now for this ICJ, you need majority, absolute majority in both United Nations General Assembly as well as UNSC, and this is what it makes it a bit more interesting. Veto power does not apply for the election of ICJ, and ICJ is required to represent the principal civilization and legal systems of the world. Once you get elected to ICJ, of course, you cannot be partial, or you cannot be biased to your country, or right, you cannot do any sort of favor. You have to work on global principles, right? So you belong to the world rather than any country. Of course, you belong to any, your citizenship could be from any country, but once you become a judge of ICJ, then you belong to the world. Now, India has lost elections to both these organs in the past, so there is it's not something that we have only been victorious here. We have lost elections here as well. Now, there are some other bodies which are not well known, but they are important. And the first one is ACABQ. This is Advisory Committee on Administrative and Budgetary Questions. It consists of 16 members elected by United Nations General Assembly, and it is been recommended by the 5th Committee of UNGA dealing with the budget of United Nations. The second important committee you can have is this Committee on Contribution, which decides how much money is to be taken from different countries, right? This member countries, it's like a kitty, right? It will decide that you have to pay 2 rupees, you have to pay 5, etc. etc. It will work out all this sort of contribution thing. And the third one is Human Rights Council, which is of course very important. Now the thing is, we know that for a very long period of time there has been a demand of changing the way United Nations Security Council is working. You have, as you know, 15 members and you have P5 members. If you don't know what P5 member is, let me quickly show you. Here are P5 members, right? You have England, you have America, Russia, France and China. These are the 5 countries, and the roots go back to World War II's outcome. Now these 5 countries, they have veto power, and they have been using veto power for their benefit for a very long period of time. The other interesting thing is that they might be fighting with each other. We see that USA and China are not, you cannot call them a very good friends. And same thing applies to Russia and US as well. But when it comes to United Nations Security Council, when it comes to ensuring that the power stays in their hand, they become one. They act as one. And India is since 1970s, right? We are trying to get a permanent seat in United Nations Security Councils. All the basic requirements, right? We fulfill all the basic requirements. We are contributing huge amount of peacekeeping force. We are representing what, 17% of the population. Our economy is big, and etc. etc. There are other criteria as well, or other requirements. Everything is being fulfilled by our country, but then as well we are not able to get this seat because of the way rules and regulations are designed in this United Nations. The other thing is we are not alone. There are other countries as well that are, we can say that they are eligible for a permanent seat in United Nations Security Council. You have Germany, Japan, Brazil, and together all these 4 countries are known as G4, right? India is included in this G4, and you have 2 countries from African continent, right? As you can imagine, there are somewhere around 54 countries in African continent, and 2 countries out of this African continent is not bad at all. So in total you have 6 countries. Now the stands taken by this 6 countries itself is bit controversial, or it's against you can say each other. African countries are saying that if you allow us, or if we get an entry in permanent this or you can say as a permanent member of UNSC, then we need this veto power. At present, these G4 countries are saying that it's fine, just forget about veto power, just let us in. And this is a thing that is going on, and the article argues that nothing is going to change, right? They are not going to let go their power. P5 members will never let go their power, and so there is no point in expecting that things will change overnight. It is better to look for some other proposals, and one proposal is that creation of semi-permanent seats, right? So India can contest for it, and India can win this semi-permanent seat as well. So it is better to go gradually, incrementally, rather than expecting some sort of radical change. With this, this article is talking about universal health coverage is the best prescription. Of course we know about it, isn't it? We have talked about this thing, and I'm sure if you sit down and close your eyes and think about this thing, then you will say that of course in our country or in the world, right, we need a sort of universal coverage. This is something which is very basic for our survival. It is as you can say as necessary as having access to clean air, water and food, isn't it? And shelter, of course. And what we are facing in our country, the 3 major issues that we face here is, first of all, access to hospitals or medical care. The second is quality, and the third is cost. Now, very briefly, let me elaborate access. When I say access, then if you see in the villages, right, you don't have that good, that many, or most of the time you don't have any hospitals or any sort of clinics at all. When we talk about quality, even if you go to urban area, then you know that there is a huge difference in the quality of services that you get from different hospitals. There is no set of standardization, and then the cost, right, the money that you means if you visit a private hospital, then you have to pay for it. Now under this SDGs as well, universal health coverage is enshrined in this sustainable development goals of United Nations, which we have to achieve by 2030. The money that we are investing, I'm using the word here investing, right, the money that we are investing in health sector is not enough compared to our population. The recent national health policy as well has missed this thing. It is saying that we are going to increase the share, or you can say the GDP spending or investment in this sector. We will take it up to 2.5 by 2025. By 2025 the population will go up as well. So this is not enough. If we want to change these things, the things that are going on at present, then we have to increase this share of GDP for health sector by 2019, right? And then it should go up. Ideally it should be somewhere around 5%. The other thing is this lack of training is there. We know the situation. I'm not saying that everyone is bad, right? I'm not saying, or of course there are very, you can say, you will find a very good hospitals and very trustworthy doctors and very professional doctors as well. But there are cases that in which we find that lack of training, and we know that last week we had 3 incidents. Remember this incident of twins? It was declared that the baby was dead, but later on it was found that the baby was still living. So this is the thing, and the burden, you know, that it goes on the family. You have to pay money for it, and because of this thing, nearly every year 6 crore people in our country, right, they become poor because of medical expenses. So we have to change this thing, no doubt, and we have to increase or improve the training and improve how personnel or medical personnel behaves and the management and all those sort of things, and we should achieve or should strive to achieve this health for all. This one is about recognize the technology constraints. The problem in our country when we talk about data protection and other things is that most of the items, right, nearly 80% of Indian smartphone users now, we are using Google's Android. Now this operating system is designed in Silicon Valley. The rules and regulations of Silicon Valley applies on this Android system. And the other thing is most of the phones are produced in China, and the production or whatever data protection law is associated with your phone is designed in this Guangdong province of China. So you can imagine that your operating system is working on different laws and your phone is working on different laws, and now we are trying to bridge a gap between it, and for that government has appointed Justice B.N. Shri Krishna Committee. Remember the name of this committee, Justice B.N. Shri Krishna Committee, to craft a data protection law for India. Now the other thing is that most of this storage system is outside India, and for India it is something that we cannot afford it now. As per USA has said that 2% of its energy goes in protecting, or you can say not protecting, but storing this or looking after this servers and data, right, which is a very huge amount. And they have to you have to build this server rooms nearby water bodies, because it requires a huge amount of water and things like that to keep everything cool and working. So this is something that India cannot afford at present. The other thing is that you have this hundreds and hundreds of different laws in our country, right? And some of them are contradicting each other. So what the best this committee can do is it can make laws, right? Of course we need this committee, we need it to sort out this public Wi-Fi and QR codes and firmware updates and things like that. It can safeguard all these things, but for a very proper and solid data protection, we have to wait until our whole digital ecosystem is mature enough to tackle it. This one is about bamboo, right? Bamboo, and bamboo is, as you know, that very special grass. It falls in the category of grass. Technically, it is a grass and not a tree, and this has been amended by the central government as well. Dear friends, as you can see on your screen, there are many products that can be made from bamboo, right, from luxurious cars, steering wheel to your toothpick, and there are many other things as well that can be made from it. And as I told you in the very beginning of this lecture, that the government of India is doing research. I believe, if I'm not wrong, there are some 1600 different varieties or species of bamboo, and they can be deployed in fighting this climate change, and it can create livelihood opportunities for many people as well. With this difference, this one is about it is an article that is countering the claims that were been made by an article that was published in the Hindu, right, regarding Swatch Bharat Abhiyan. Nothing outstanding in this one. You can skip this one if you want. With this, we reach to news item. Dear friends, today, as you can see, we had many articles, right? It has taken our 34 minutes, so I will be very quick with this one, and I will very quickly finish it. Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. This has been declared by USA. USA has accepted, you can say, that Jerusalem is the official capital and not the Tel Aviv. So now they are going to shift this embassy. You might be knowing this thing that there is a problem going on regarding Jerusalem because the claim is been made by Palestine as well, and this is something you know that this portion is always going through. You find some sort of troubles going through here, and the history go back. If you go back to the history, then you find it was after the British left this portion of Jerusalem and this area, and then there was a war between Israel and other countries, right? It is known as Six-Day War, and it was during this Six-Day War when they took over this Jerusalem and things like that. So of course we have to wait and watch. India is neutral when it comes to this thing. Then Solar Alliance comes into existence. International Solar Alliance is about producing solar energy. If you want to know more about it, we have talked about it as a focus topic in PIB analysis. But let me tell you what you find here, that India's target is producing 1,75,000 or 175 gigawatt of renewable energy by 2022. And the other thing is, dear friends, it covers the countries that fall between the range of Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn. Not completely, but even if some of the countries are partially covered under this range, then as well they are taken on board. Then you have NSG, this nuclear suppliers group, and Russia has said that it is trying to convince China so that India can be allowed, or the blockade that has been created by China can be removed. With this, dear friends, these are your answers. Devaraya 1, and the second one is Devrai, not Devaraya, it's Devrai, beg your pardon. And the second one is Latrite. And today's questions are here. Which of the following mountains are the newest? Nilgiris, Himalayas, or Aravalli, or Satpura range? And the second one is the mass nesting of olive ridley sea turtles in India occurs at Sundarbans, Gahri Matha Marine Sanctuary. Then you have Mangala Jodi wetlands and Pulikat Lake. And identify the person that you can see on your screen. With this, dear friends, I end this discussion. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, and I will share a PDF on my Facebook page. Make sure you too share it with other people. Enjoy your studies, and I will wait for your likes and your valuable comments and your answers as well. Till then, see you later, and Jai Hind.